Hello everybody and welcome. I'm Dakian. This is my painting update for Monday the 14th of December 2015. And since it's December, we're starting off with the Christmas theme mini. This is the Reaper Christmas Sophie from 2002. Climbing into a chimney with some, or out of it perhaps, with a bag of presents. And, well, the backside is not that interesting to look at, perhaps. It's perhaps not my best work. I think the skin tone came out a little rough in places, but I don't know, I tried to vary things up, made him more of a brown hair than the red hair of the previous model, and went with the outfit more metallic. Instead of just the red with white trim, I just went with a sort of an armored look. And yeah, I think she turned out okay. Next up is some models that have been sitting on my desk for a long time. These red box English that I've painted up as potentially part of my Frostgrave warband. I've painted a lot of these guys previously in rather bright colors, so I just felt like doing something more muted, a bit more drab perhaps this time, just to get a little variety. And yeah, I'm pretty much I don't have any more of these lined up. I have some red box minis still in my collection that are unpainted, but they are all from the Njorn range. That is their kind of fantasy Vikings. Not these English are just sort of European medieval classical style. The Njorn, well, if I paint those up, it'll be for a whole another warband entirely. This guy came out a little bit glossy, I think, in the light, but oh well, it doesn't matter. It'll make him show up better on the tabletop. And that's them. And finally, let's just get these out of the way. I want to show you something that perhaps comes a bit out of the blue. I never showed you prep for these because I prepped and painted them very, very quickly. They're rather simple. These are some Steam Arachnids from Malifaux, little Arcanist minions, and they are on plastic. The basis are some of the Micro Arts plastic base system that I've shown you before, that I kickstarted, and these are just simply glued on there. And these are the junk, or I think they're called trash bases, with various bits of metal and machinery. I thought that was appropriate because these constructs are kind of scavenge metals. Now, for my current Arcanist Master Marcus, these are not very useful because they're constructs, they're not beasts. So why have I painted them? Well, they might give a little bit of a hint as to what my next crew, my third crew that I'll be painting up will be. Haha. Oh, and by the way, I played a game of Malifaux yesterday for the first time with my new Zoraida crew that I showed you last week. Or was it the week before last? I forget. I reached a draw, 5-5 victory points, but I was happy anyway because the reason I would have won if well, either of two things had happened, or both. Either if I had not misread how one of my schemes worked, I would have gotten 2 points more. And also, if it had continued to a 6th round, a 6th turn, I would have won, because then I could have gotten some more scheme markers out. Because at the end of the 5th turn, I had tabled my opponent. I wiped him out completely and only lost 2 models myself. Unfortunately, he had accomplished more of his schemes. So we were equal anyway. Oh well, that's the way it goes. I'm not making that particular mistake again. I'm trying to use that scheme with that upgrade. Anyway, let's move on. Looking at my current works in progress, there are a motley crew. If we start with Malifaux, we have not a lot of progress at all on the Avatar of Marcus. A few base coats on the Doppelganger, nothing really done on McTavish. However, I have more or less completed the basis for the Doppelganger and McTavish. They are all painted up and ready to go. And down here you can see I've started prepping some plastic models. I already have the metal versions of these two, the Cerberus and the Rattler, Razor Spine Rattler, but since they are not unique, I can have at least 2 of the Sabertooth. It's rare too, so I can have exactly 2 of them. And the Rattler is unlimited. So I started putting them together. The Rattler, you will notice a very large gap here near his head. It's because this model doesn't fit together properly, and it's not just me. I've talked to more experienced Malifaux players and they've had the same issue. It's just not... There's going to be a lot of gap filling here. The rest of the body and the tail doesn't have these large gaps. It's just up here in the head and neck region. This one went together much better. There's a few gaps, you know, between the heads and so forth, where I obviously have to do some filling, but yeah, not a big deal. I've started working on their basis. I'm just building up basic rock bases out of cork. I'm going to build them up a little bit more, and you know, the usual painting and greenery and stuff. Now for the next Christmas mini, let's see if we can get a good view of her. The next Sophie here has had a few splashes of color applied, not much. This one was really tricky. This was 5 separate pieces to put together. I don't think I've ever had that many different pieces on such a small metal model before. And some joins were tricky. You shouldn't look too closely at her from certain angles, because you'll start to wonder how twisted her neck actually is. And yeah, but like the previous one, this is the 2008 Christmas Sophie, by the way, and she's sitting on a chimney, just like the previous one, 2002, but slightly different. She has a sword instead of a bag of presents. And in the back here we have assorted minis for D&D, Frostgrave, whatever. These 3 are all by Reaper miniatures. We have a sort of female swordswoman, a male thief, and nothing special about them. And this is a monster. It's called the Hooked Terror, which is obviously a reference to the Hook Horror, which is a D&D monster. However, a Hook Horror is at least twice the size of a human. So this is a baby Hook Horror, maybe. And over here we have a couple of other, a female fighter and some sort of rogue by Black Hat Miniatures. Unexceptional for the most part, except that this one had a ton of flashing and mold lines to clean off. And this one had the strange property that while I was cleaning it up, it snapped off at the waist, and it's not even that thin a waist. I mean, well, yeah, she's not fat or anything, but there's quite a lot of metal there. So how it could just break off, I don't know. But I glued her together and hopefully disguised it, the break, with some putty. So yeah, that's what's on the table at the moment. Oh yeah, one other project I've started. I've decided I need some frost giants for Frostgrave, so I pulled out these two giants that I painted way back in the day because they're kind of pale and she has blue hair. I think she was intended as a frost giant to begin with. This one, maybe not, but he's really pale skin, so that fits. And I'm going to rebase them. I'm going to take my pliers and cut off this. They're mounted on plastic card, which is, oh, that was a, So I'm going to cut around that, put them on ordinary round 50 mil plastic bases, and then add some basing material and rocks and snow effects and, you know, the drill, just to make them look up to date. But that is, that's a fast project. It won't take any time. So my numbers are dipping a little bit, but that's because I did some Christmas shopping. It'll write itself before the year is over. What you're looking at here is my experiments in trying to make more cost-efficient terrain. This is paper-crafted terrain. I bought PDFs from various sources. Well, mostly Fat Dragon and David Graffam, and everything you're looking at right now is actually from David Graffam. I started there. And I started experimenting. This here is my first experiment. This is just paper. This is, I thought I'll do heavy paper, 160 gram paper and print it out, but it's kind of flimsy. I'm gonna throw this one out. Just wanted to show it to you. It might look okay at a distance, but the walls buckle and it's not very good. So my second attempt, I did this farmhouse set of various pieces, including the big barn here in the background. And what I did here, see, this sounds more solid as compared to tapping on this. It's because I took the 160 gram paper, printed it out, then glued it onto 300 gram cardboard. And for the basis, I used 5mm foam board. It's called foam core in certain areas. Around here it's known as foam board, and this provides more weight, more stability, and especially for this big thing. And this is okay for solid buildings, the ones that you're not gonna open up and walk into. But for smaller pieces, like some of these, which one is it? Yeah, it's this one. You see, it's kind of warped. Don't know if you can see it. But that's because when you're cutting and folding such small pieces of paper, it's really hard to get the measurements exactly right. And in a small piece like this water trough, if you're 0.5 millimeter off, it's going to look crooked. Oh well. Maybe for small things like this, you don't need to go paper. You can actually go plastic or resin. It's not that much more expensive. Here's a doghouse. But then I was inspired by somebody on the internet who made it much thicker. Made the walls out of foam board. See, I've sandwiched the foam board between two pieces of paper, and I see cut out these slots. This is in order to make the terrain into this. Boom. You have a cross section, and it comes apart for easier storage, I guess. These to make them this is really stable. I like this. This is almost like having a proper material. And I had to modify the source material. The source material is printouts like this one. You see, this is the instructions for this say to just cut this out and fold here at the bottom, and you cut out these thin slits for inserting the other pieces. So what I did was, of course, simply cut there instead and glue it onto separate sides of the foam board, and also widened these quite a lot to 5 millimeters, so that the 5mm foam board will fit. And well, as you can tell, I've printed out a few more of these. I have to go buy more foam board. That's the only real expense and involved here. These ruined wall sections, I think, will be good for setting up a frost grave board. Anyway, that was my adventures in painting and modeling for this week. We're closing in on Christmas and the end of the year, and well, there's lots of stuff to do. But I will get some painting done until I see you next week. So until then, I'm Dakian, and I'm signing off.